Hi, everybody. It's Pastor Tom. This is the 24 Today podcast, and I really appreciate you tuning in. I just absolutely love talking to people because I love to learn, and I am convinced that it can help you learn as well. Today, it's my pleasure to have Marianne Peterson with me, and I know that you will appreciate hearing her story because you're going to relate to it in some way, either personally or you certainly will know somebody that this is totally for them. And so you might want to like this or share it or just let somebody know to watch this. Anyway, Marianne has written a book called God and Your Pillow, and I'm going to talk about that and Marianne's story. Welcome, Marianne, to the podcast.
Hello. Nice talking with you.
Thank you so much for being with me. Let's just jump right into your story. At 19 years old, what took place in your life?
Basically, my life changed. Thankfully, there was a better change about a year before I turned 19. I just graduated from high school.
Okay.
That's when, I felt a whole new life. The Lord changed my heart, and happiest 18-year-old I could be.
Wow. Had you grown up in church?
A little bit growing up. Yeah, I knew to do the right little things and go to church, and that was about it.
Okay.
But God opened my eye the summer after I graduated, and I knew He loved me, and I had a new heart. I was saved, and I can remember that special day.
Wow.
And when I'm, at that age, you already feel like you're ready for the world,
Mm-hmm.
All upper teens think
Absolutely.
they're ready
Sure.
at all. But after I was saved, I felt it even more. I was excited.
You were ready to go. Did you have ideas like what you wanted to do in life at that point, or
Yes,
what God wanted you to do?
I had college in mind. I wanted to be basically in front of the TV screen or behind the TV screen, putting movies together.
Okay.
That was my goal, and I actually did some courses for that. But I kind of had an interruption in life.
Okay.
I thought, I want to see what life is on my own, and I moved. Loving family, but someone invited me somewhere for a couple months, and I was there, dear friend. But I left church for those months. I left my normal routine reading, praying, but I was still seeking God on my own,
Sure.
thinking I could do it.
Right.
And I just had a few other temptations I thought I could survive through. And to make a long story short, I realized I was pregnant.
Okay.
And I can almost picture the day when I found out that a pregnancy test tells me I was pregnant. But I knew God forgave me for that sin, and I felt His true love almost from day one.
I'm just listening to you as a man, and I just cannot believe, I can't imagine how that must feel to get that news that you're pregnant, and just all of the fear. I can't imagine that, and you probably can't even explain to me what that feels like.
When you have a goal of waiting, quote, for your wedding night, and I knew that was right, and I knew God wanted that, and when I messed that up, I felt like dirt.
Wow.
And I was a Christian, and I thought, oh, no Christians, this doesn't happen to them, but hormones can overrule your mind. And so my book covers how tough that was for me. And I know a lot of people go through a very dramatic, especially when they're young. Thankfully, my family was supportive of me. And I know others may not have supported, but God knew I needed my family to help me. So my story shows what happened to me. What about the biological father? What went on? What went on through as soon as he found out, and kind of turns into a soap opera.
Okay. Now, did you return back home after finding the news? And
yes, it was. Yes, my story shows.
Kind enough to welcome you back in with loving arms, and
it wasn't until I got back home when I found out. So my story shows. Yeah, my story gives all the details of the whole what happened that first month or two. But when you're planning on what should I do, what does God want me to do, sometimes we follow more what we thought we should do, but God knew what was best.
Mm-hmm.
And his ways of showing me his plan wasn't easy, but I'm so thankful he did it the way he did. So once that my relationship with him was called off, I sought God so much more. Thankfully, my church family, and I encourage the church family I had, kept me going.
I'm so happy to hear
As
that.
months go by, then again, my story shows how a soap opera, and there's even some, and this is kind of what encouraged me to turn this into a book, is there's some illegal stuff going on in there too. Okay. And even then, God is in control of even that. So.
By you or by your?
Well, then my story, I don't want to give too much of my story.
Sure. Okay.
But it was just enough to show that God can make it was a soap opera.
Okay.
But God turned that soap opera into a love story. So my book can just be for that young lady who just wants a good love story that will still encourage her to wait.
Love story between?
Well, that's what my story will share.
You're not going to let me. Okay.
I could share with you how my life is now, 31 years later.
Okay.
Have a wonderful family of 6. But our 4 children are now out of the house, and I'm now a grandmother. So, but this is what my book is about. God took me through this very tough time, but he shows through my story that he had it all planned. You could tell, even in fun ways. He let me know, okay, Marianne, sure, you're full of tears and you don't know what's going on, but I am holding you. And I felt that there's even a song at the end of my book that words it perfectly. It talks about how God will lift you up when you don't know what you're going to do. You just give up. He lifted me up, said, Marianne, I will take care of you. It's going to be tough, but I'm going to be carrying you through this trial. But I know what I'm going to do. And at the perfect time, he brought me down. And that's what encouraged me to turn this into a book, because it shows his love for his children. I kept seeking him through the whole ordeal. It wasn't I can do it. No, I knew God needed to help me. But my book also encourages that you still have to do your stuff. Okay. You can't be here, God, you do take care of everything for me. No, I was prepping up. Okay, am I going to be a single mom? Let me do what I need to. But again, seeking God first. And I just grew closer to him those 9 months. Because again, his love.
Let me ask you just more of a question about your church. I was glad to hear that you said that your church supported you. Now, this is a church you've been to for, sounds like a little over a year or 2 years or so now at this point?
Yes. Once I was saved, it was the first church I went to, but then I went out of town for a few months, come back. But yes, a solid church that I was attending.
Were you afraid to go back on that first Sunday? Were you fearful that you'd be judged? And
I couldn't help it, yeah.
Okay, so what happened when you went to church that day? Do you remember? I mean, do you? The conversations? Do you remember? Did people have an idea by that time, or?
Well, when I came back, there was a week or two I didn't really even know yet I was pregnant.
Okay.
And so I visited, but when I did find out, the first thing I had to do was talk to our pastor.
Okay.
And I share this in my book. And I will never forget what he said. I waited till he was done, waited till everyone was gone. Oh, by the way, I just have to ask you something. Can we talk for a minute? And I told him. And I will never forget that conversation. He said, before we say anything else, have you repented from that sin? Are you forgiven? And I said, yes, I know God's forgiven me. He saw my tears. He's forgiven me. And he said, and I'll never forget it, then he is going to carry you through this. Have peace. And I did not hear one negative comment from anyone at church.
I am so happy.
It's a small church. Everyone kind of knows what's going on. But I got total support.
I am so happy to hear that.
And I know that's what God, and that in my book, towards the end, I'm encouraging people that if you're going through a trial like this, if you're not going to a church yet, try to find one. Put God first, and he will carry you. And I had the most support from friends.
Great.
Yeah.
If you're just tuning in with us, I'm Pastor Tom, and this is the 24 Today podcast. And you can find out more about me and my blogs and podcasts and so forth at 24today.org. That's 24today.org. And my special guest is Marianne Peterson, and she has written a book called God and Your Pillow. And you can find out more about her. In fact, why don't you, just show us your book, Marianne. Let's take a look at that. God and Your Pillow.
Your pillow.
So, what is the under the subtitle is?
It says, "How an unexpected pregnancy taught me to truly trust God."
Okay.
And ever since then, I've trusted Him for other trials we've gone through.
And your website is marymemoirs.com, and let me just spell that out, and I'll actually put it on the screen as well. But it's MARIMEMOIRS.com.
Yes.
Marymemoirs.com. Can you tell me a little bit about your site and your blog?
My main purpose is to bring some cheer into others who are going through any trial, not just pregnancy. So I have a section, though, that just talks about my book. And quite a while ago, I started giving little bits and pieces about my book from beginning to where I'm at now in it. So if you want a little background of what my book's about, then you have it there. And I have another ailment I did go through a couple years later that I'm sharing. Again, God carries me still through that. And I just have other fun things of encouragement to read about.
Okay. And you can get your book on Amazon.com and also through your website. We can get your book.
Not through my website yet. It will guide you to Amazon.
But right now, definitely you can look it up. It's easy to find on Amazon.com. And is it? It's an ebook. Is it in paperback also, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
And there's quite a few comments that is very encouraging to me with my book.
Good. So
when I was starting years ago, shortly after my story was going on, people were saying, "Marianne, God has carried you. You need to let people know your story. You should write a book." And I'm going, yeah, right. I love writing, but I wasn't a writer. And then as years went by, more children gets into the picture, and then homeschooling, the whole busyness. People kept saying, "You need to share your story." And I like to tell what happened, because I met this new friend on the internet, and I was emailing her a little bit. This is about 10 years ago when emailing was the thing. I said, "Well, I want to tell you my story, but I'll just do a little bit each day. Just a little, a few paragraphs." After a week or almost about a week and a half, she said, "Marianne, do you mind if I make copies of these little emails you sent me? Because I know 3 people who need to read your story."
Wow.
So I started dressing what I was writing after that for about another week. And finally, I remember looking up as I'm on my computer, okay, I'll turn this into a story. And that's what started it.
So this book is about your story and starting at age 19.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just first about the first 2 years after that.
Okay. God and Your Pillow. Tell me how that comes into play.
Well, I think everybody agrees that we give so much thought onto our pillows. You wake up, it's filling with your thoughts. At night, right? Yep. The joys you're having, the trials you're going through, your pillow is soaking up tears if you're shedding tears. Mm-hmm. So I thought, God's been, this pillow has been it for during this trial. So I'm going to call it my pillow.
Wow.
Then after I started writing my book, I'm seeing how God is so intertwined in my story. And I think God knows all my thoughts too. Wow. So I'm going to make it God and my pillow.
Okay.
My pillow. Because we're talking about my pillow, right?
Sure.
But then I thought, no, I want to reach out to those who it's their pillow that soaks up all their thought through trials they're going through. So therefore, it's God and Your Pillow. So.
Now, if I could jump back in your story a little bit, you were, in your mind, you were going to be college bound. You wanted to get into some type of broadcasting or something like that. You were ready to go, and then this unexpected turn of events happens in your life, and your life totally changed. Did you end up going to college then, or what happened next?
I did not continue college.
Okay.
Thankfully, I had much support during my pregnancy that I could stay at home. So I did get a little part-time job, and I just wasn't sure what to do. Because one of the reasons I stepped out of college, it was just a community college, because I just thought, I got to do something else to get my career going. I had college so I wasn't so eager to go back to college. And then, as the story shares, that God just basically planned my life for me. I met somebody that God gave this man, and that started fairly soon. Okay. So, therefore, I don't need to go off to college if I've met this certain man. Okay. And then the story continues. So, no, I have not. But as of now, though, my goal was to do something visually with videos, with something, okay? In high school, that was I have to do something with a screen, okay? Guess what I do now? I put videos together for websites.
Really? Good.
Yes. So God, I share this with so many. He knew my goal. He just had me go through a different road to get to what I wanted to do. And that road was up and down, easy times, hard times, but God held me through it all. Mm-hmm. And at the perfect time, He kind of opened the right door of perhaps doing video designing. Mm. And His hand was in the whole thing. And I'm very pleased at what I do now. And it wasn't exactly what I thought, but it's sure. God's way of taking care.
Somehow, even when we make wrong choices, God, in His divine way, can somehow make that turn out in the long run in a way that glorifies Him and works out in our life.
Amen.
It's just He is amazing how He can do that, and He obviously has in your life.
I like to say God's plans are perfect. It may not be exactly what we think at the time, but if we look back, He was right there carrying me. He knew what was best for me. He might, again, held me while I was bawling my head off, but He was holding me tight.
So when you say what was best for you, would you say it wouldn't have been best for you at that time to go to college, and your plans wouldn't have been best for you? Is that what you were saying? Okay.
I don't know. Here I am now. That's the best plan. Okay. Back then, I might have been too proudful. Tell you the truth, I'm one that doesn't mind being in front of the screen. and there's other things. This other thing that happened to me years later, I think God is just wanting to humble me. I might have been a little too proud in high school in what other things I was doing, and He knew what was best for me.
Wow.
And here I am now.
Here you are.
He might have had the plan, Marianne, I want you to be out there to help others. And I love that. I love that instead. Sure. I want people to look at me and know there's hope. I like to say that during that tough time, I sensed that there was a light down that tunnel. And God had that light planned, and I kind of kept going after it. And it was really dark sometime, but my story shares what opened up.
I want to ask you, again, a different kind of question. Your church helped you as a single mom, I'm sure. Can you think of some specific ways, or just generally loving you as a person? And where I'm going with that is how can a church be more sensitive to single parents, and what can we do as churches?
I know for myself, I was very sorry for my sin. My hopes were gone, wanting to wait till my wedding night. And how do you say it? We can really mess up. And we have to understand, like when I know some others that have this similar thing happen to them, my heart feels for them so much more now. And if someone didn't experience that, just try to realize that, yes, it's hard. Love them. Don't say anything really negative, because they already know what they did was wrong. And you're not going to help them by just making them feel a little worse.
Okay.
And
somehow we confuse God's role with, like, we think it's our role to give somebody a lecture or disapprove or whatever, and that really is the spirit of God's role, to work in somebody's heart and help show them, how to come back to Him and all that. But we just confuse that, and we take on so much more stuff, and we always mess it up when we try to do that.
And I know some of the books that I've read recently about this subject, they might get a little bit too in a let me teach you something, kind of a little too forcing. You need to do this. And it's like, no, every story is different. We can't assume squat.
Yeah.
Just give our heart in prayer. And if they want some counseling, if they, people come to me, they've come to me, say, Marianne, how did you deal with it? But I don't want to get on too bossy, too I know it all at it. So just show love.
Yeah, every story is different. Every situation is different, and also somehow we assume people know what, like, have our background of understanding of Scripture or how we were raised or whatever, but sometimes people simply have no clue of how they were supposed to act or what God says and what God doesn't say and all of that. But we come into it with this thought that they just they know what we know and they did what they did, and so they're obviously really, really bad. But
I learned so much during that pregnancy. Scripture made a lot more sense to me during that trial.
Yeah, sure.
What people were saying did make more sense. But I also realized, boy, I can't look down so much at those who've messed up, Christian or not.
Sure.
And it kind of hit me a little more because, again, I'm a believer. This is going to make people even maybe look more down on me, perhaps. Yeah. But, oh well. So that's what
of compassion that God must have given you and gives you that now that when you see someone that's struggling in ways that you've not struggled in, or you don't have that temptation or whatever, but the compassion you must have now because of having experienced what you've experienced must be incredible.
And I know it happened to me so many years ago, but it's pretty much the same for people today. Sure, they might have a website they could go get some information about real quick, but I just had my pillow on my bed to take my thoughts, But, and I know in my book too, I did share I kept a journal growing up. And so I shared some of that trial on paper. And I have that in my book, just so people can know a little bit more of the me.
Sure.
I was actually going through it.
Do you still have that pillow?
No. In my heart, yes. God's my pillow. Okay. He's the one that never needs, we never need to change that pillow. He's our salt. Yeah.
I want to ask you as we head to the end of our conversation, and we've really covered this, but let's just state it again, that your pregnancy was unexpected by you, but God knew all about it, and
He forgave me. He let me know if I truly repent, He's there to hug me through it.
And it's not the circumstances God would have chosen, but God values this life, and God's excited for the new life, and but He knew all about your child. And
my story shows how I had to go to the perfect place to hear the perfect words because I was still ignorant. I almost thought I shouldn't have this baby.
Yeah.
And my story shows how God just said, I'm going to teach you a few things. And I savored what I learned. And I was so at peace deciding to keep that baby.
Yes.
It took me a while to decide if I was going to be the mom, but that I was going to actually give birth. God knew the perfect timing of opening my eye to that. And that's what I want to share in my book.
Good. Again, I want to thank you for listening to this podcast. I'm Pastor Tom, and you can find me at 24today.org, and Marianne Peterson, especially if you will go to her website, Mary Memoirs. That's a hard word for me to say.
It took me a while to get used to it.
Well, you say it for me.
Mary Memoirs.
Oh, I like how you say it. Mary
Memoirs. Because memoirs are sharing your story.
Okay, marymemoirs.com. I'm not going to say it again because I'm going to mess it up. And I will put it on the screen so that folks can see it. But anyway, your book is called God and Your Pillow. And folks can go to your site and find out more about you. And on Amazon.com, they can easily find your book and get a copy of it. And again, if you like this particular podcast, why don't you help to share it with other people if you would? Just click like, share, subscribe to this channel. And Marianne, it's been a pleasure talking.
Thank you very much.
And I pray blessings on your continued ministry, because I know that that your book is getting out there, and also you're wanting to be for anyone who would like you to speak at a church or women's convention or whatever it might be. You are definitely interested in doing that, and people can contact you on the website, and you would love to share your story with others.
Yes.
And I pray God's blessings on you for that.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Marianne. Thanks again. And remember, everyone, that there still is time left in this 24-hour period to live life today.